Will Rogers saw through trickle-down economics before Washington gave it a fancier name. In 1932, after Herbert Hoover's defeat, Rogers wrote that the money was all appropriated for the top, in the hopes that it would trickle down to the needy. Nearly a century later, Republican politicians are still selling the same failed idea, but with better packaging. Rogers' point was simple. Hoover understood that water trickled down. But money, Rogers joked, had a way of trickling up. Give it to people at the bottom, and the people at the top will have it soon enough. At least it will have passed through working people's hands first. They do not usually call it trickle-down anymore. That label became too honest. Now it comes wrapped in better words. Tax relief, job creators, free markets, economic development, parental choice, and pro-growth policy. The words change. The direction of the money usually does not. By almost any measure of whether ordinary families are moving forward, Oklahoma remains near the bottom. Median household income ranks about 45th. Child well-being is 46th. Education is 48th. Life expectancy is 45th. Infant mortality ranks 46th of 52. Oklahoma incarcerates about 905 people per 100,000 residents. Voters have stopped listening to slogans. They want results. The old version was blunt. Help the people at the top and hope something eventually reaches everyone else. The new version sounds more polished. Tax cuts become pro-growth policy. Corporate subsidies become economic development. Private school tax credits become choice. Weak wages become labor market freedom. Cuts to public services become fiscal responsibility. This first article sets the table. The rest of the series will bring the receipts. In the next parts, we will look at the actual quotes, research reports, tax credit records, state budget choices, and Oklahoma examples behind each slogan. Part 1 is the map. The rest of the series follows the money. If low taxes, weak wages, corporate subsidies, and public underinvestment were going to make Oklahoma prosperous, we should be running out of problems by now. We are not. The issue is no longer whether a politician used the right conservative words. The issue is whether the policy actually delivered. The sales pitch works because it changes the name of the transaction. When money goes to a working family, politicians call it spending. When money goes to a corporation, they call it economic development. When money goes to a public school, they demand accountability. When money goes to a private school tax credit, they call it choice. Same public dollar, different label. Start with bootstraps. The phrase originally described something impossible. Try to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and you will fall over. That was the point. Somehow, American politics turned that joke into advice for poor people. The bootstrap story is useful because it turns a policy failure into a character flaw. That is not economics. That is blame management. Then came trickle-down. The phrase was never a compliment. Will Rogers used it to mock the idea that government should help the people at the top and hope the needy eventually received what was left. Politicians changed the words because the old label told too much truth. Nobody wants to admit the problem is not gravity. It is policy that keeps the money at the top. Job creators may be the most useful phrase in the whole sales pitch because it makes workers and customers disappear. Businesses hire when they have more customers than the current workers can serve. Then there is the free market. Markets always have rules. The real question is who the rules are written to help. Sometimes free market means a market with a VIP entrance. The final phrase is balanced budgets. Republican politicians say debt is dangerous and government should live within its means. Then tax cuts arrive. Corporate breaks arrive. Political promises arrive. Debt and lost revenue do not disappear. They get shifted. Oklahoma does not need another sales pitch. Oklahoma needs receipts. Follow the words. Then follow the money.